Hey guys, Marsingin here bringing you Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so after the release of the TEQ VEGETA and INT Angel Goku EZAs, I did say I would do another EZA tier list after getting a chance to play with them a little bit and see how I feel about their placements. Obviously I had some initial thoughts as soon as we got their EZAs and we tried them out. And then I've tried to put together a list. Now, honestly, I think this one is, when it comes to EZAs, because I've made the decision, I mean, everybody else does it as well, right? So I've just kind of gone along with the community standard, but including super EZAs in the same list as well. Some of this gets really, really tough, especially as we get to nearer the top. But even just any of the placements in general, it's really tough with some of these characters because a lot of the EZAs are providing very different things to their teams. So it kind of comes down to personal preference, I guess, a little bit in like team building and stuff like that. Because if you have a unit that's like a really, really good support unit for the team and doesn't really do a lot of damage, and then you have a unit that's like a really, really good damage dealer for the team, but maybe they're not the best defensively and they don't provide any support, like how do you rate which one of those is better outside of like your personal preference on like how you like to build teams and what you like units to do, right? So definitely I can see potentially a lot of disagreements with this list, but that's fine. That's always the case with these tier lists anyway. And as I always say at the beginning of these tier list videos, this is all entirely based on my own personal experience, my own like runs of the game using the units and stuff. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Just let me know why down below in the comments. It's always better to have some discussion, have some like explanation of why you think a unit's placement is not correct or is not where you would place them. I feel like I say this every video, but it's like there will always still be a comment from somebody that is just like, oh, you think this guy is better than this guy. It's like, yes, I do. That was in the video and I tried to explain why in the video. Like that comment doesn't really do anything to further any sort of discussion. So if you disagree with any of the placements, let me know. As I always say with these tier lists as well, like characters who are next to each other in the list could easily just be swapped because there is not a lot between it sometimes. And then even when you get to the top of the list, a lot of the time, like the top three could kind of rotate a little bit and it probably wouldn't be a huge difference. It's just there is so little between some of these characters when it comes to placing them in the specific slots. So we're going to start off here with number 10. And I've got two units at number 10 because I wasn't really sure which one to do. So one of them can be 10, the other one can be the honorable mention. I guess you guys can pick for yourself. But we have TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. I know there's a lot of people I've noticed on my like other tier lists and even videos where we've put him on the team, where there are some people out there who really don't like this unit, but I definitely think he can be very good. He can be quite useful, like if you're stuck in a situation where you don't have a good unit on the rotation for like tanking. This guy, obviously you can get the 12 key and he does have a very high dodge chance, which has come in clutch for me on some runs, you know, when we were trying out silly things like trying to run like the Super Saiyan 3 team and stuff like that. So this guy I think can still be very useful. Obviously he's kind of been, I wouldn't say replaced because the new LR Gotenks is like a slot 1 unit, but the fact that we have a new TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks probably does decrease this guy's value a little bit, but he can still be very effective. And then the other unit that we have here is the STR Kefla. Now this unit is very interesting because obviously when it comes to difficult content, she is essentially like a dodge or die character. But she can get up to doing some crazy damage, so it kind of depends on your preferred playstyle. Like I said at the beginning, I could see people maybe wanting to put her higher in the list if you really go for that, like going for big damage, like risk over reward kind of like or strategy, right, where you know you're happy to have a unit that could maybe get blasted but is, you know, by the time we get to the end of the fight doing like multiple 30 million plus attack stats and stuff like that, right? Even in events that aren't super long, if she's on rotation and consistently getting off supers, like she can definitely get to some pretty high numbers. So definitely a very good one. But I think some of the EZAs we've had recently are really, really good. You know, I think Kefla even being at the bottom of the list, considering how long ago she got her EZA, right? It was like the beginning of the year for global, because she was a global first EZA. So the fact that she's still even on the top 10 list, I think is pretty good. Because yeah, we can end up getting some pretty good damage out of her once we get to the end of the event. But let me know what you think. If you prefer Kefla to some of the other ones that are above, let me know. But then we move on to number 9, and at number 9, this is where I put the Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku. Now, I know some people are going to be really annoyed with this one, because there are people who already in the comments for some of the other videos when these guys came out saying that there wasn't that much of a gap between Vegeta and Goku. But those of you who've heard me talk about Vegeta, you kind of already know how I feel about him, and you know he's going to be much, much higher up the list, and this Goku has ended up at number 9. And the reason for this is I put them both on the list. And I didn't have them like super far apart, but it was then just a case of every other unit that I was then trying to put on the list, like below Vegeta, below some of the other people that I thought were very close to Vegeta. Like as I started to put these other units on the list, a lot of them in my mind, it was just like, well, they are also better than Goku. So Goku kept dropping like more places downwards. So obviously, I know some people won't agree with this, but this is where I'm putting Goku. He's at number 9. The reason is because he is very much a dodge or die character. He does have 80% chance to dodge once he transforms into Super Saiyan 3, which obviously is good. But he is not putting out like crazy attack numbers. His raw defense is obviously not very good. So he very much is the epitome of a dodge or die character. But I just feel like they really kind of messed up his design comparatively to the Vegeta. Vegeta is obviously a very, very solid defensive unit, but he's also hitting really hard. Like if they'd swapped their offensive capabilities, right? So TEQ VEGETA is, or Martian Vegeta is being this insane tank, but he's only dropping like, you know, 15, 16 million attack stats. He would still be really, really good. And then if this Goku was relying on that dodge, but he's dropping like 30 million plus like Vegeta, then I think he would be considerably better. Whereas because he's only doing like 16 to 17 million or so attack stats, it feels like the reward that you get for the risk of him being dodge or die is not as high. And so he's just ended up lower on the list. I could see putting him higher depending on other things, but like I say, as I was trying to put these other units in the list, I just kept thinking about some of their strengths and essentially just being like, well, I guess they're kind of better than Goku, or like, would I use them on their teams? Like if I was building a specific team with the main category that that unit is on, how likely would I be to put them on the team? And if it's more likely than I would be to put Goku on the Buu Saga team, then maybe they should be higher than Goku in the list. But let me know what you guys think about it. But he's at number 9. Number 8, we have Full Power Frieza. Now, when I did the Super Easy A tier list, a lot of people said that I put Full Power Frieza too low. But like, I don't know. I don't know if there's something that I'm missing. But I honestly just don't think that Full Power Frieza is that good. He's a unit that is designed to be in slot 1, but doesn't have really good like start of turn defense. So he absolutely can get caught out, and he gets weaker every turn, like loses damage reduction. So it gets to the point where, you know, once you're a few turns into an event, he really can't tank in slot 1. And then obviously in slot 2 or 3, he can do some really big damage, especially against like a pure Saiyan enemy. But then his defense, he loses some extra damage reduction, obviously by not being in slot 1. So then if he's just relying on raw defense, he has no other defensive tech. So he is going to take big damage from supers and even some of the harder hitting boss normals. So yeah, I'm not really sure if there's something I'm missing about this guy. I mean, I could even see Goku being higher than him just because of the defensive capabilities. But the main reason why I put this guy above Goku is he does like some pretty serious damage. You know, he can be good on some of the teams that he's on. And then, yeah, compared to some of the other Super Easy A characters, maybe I did put him a little bit too low on the Super Easy A tier list. But, yeah, I'm not really sure with this guy, honestly, where... I'm not sure what everybody else sees in this guy that I don't. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. But he's at number 8. and I don't really have much more to say about him other than that, to be honest. So then we move on to number 7, and we have TEQ Gohan. TEQ Gohan still being in the top 10 list after all this time. Gohan fans maybe would think that he should still be higher, I don't know. But obviously they did a cracking thing with his EZA, giving him the damage reduction on turn 1, because as a stacking unit, obviously turn 1 is like the most dangerous turn. We need an opportunity to start getting him some build up, so obviously that's really, really good. Of course, in the new hardest events in the game, like, it could still potentially be a liability turn 1, especially if you want to be using him as a slot 1 unit and he eats a super attack straight away. But obviously with guard, with stacking, with the fact that he can very often do multiple supers within the same turn, he builds up quite quickly, and then obviously can be very, very impressive. And then once you transform into the Ultimate Gohan, you know, if I've had this guy even in runs that aren't particularly long, getting well over like 1.5 million defense, and then once he's obviously Ultimate Gohan, he's hitting really hard as well. So this guy could still be really, really good. And obviously I think we're at a point now with the current meta, like with the current releases for this last part of the year, maybe it just is recency bias, I guess, but like almost every Majin Buu Saga character feels like they have a little bit of a boost in viability just because of how crazy that team is now. So this Gohan obviously can still be very, very useful. I think he's better than full power Frieza just because of how the defensive tech. Even fully built up, he probably won't be hitting as hard as full power Frieza, but can still hit really hard, lowers attack, which is really useful. And then obviously, yeah, his defense can be absolutely crazy. So we have him at number 7. Number 6, we have the STR Legendary Super Saiyan Broly Super EZA. Now this one, I know there's going to be people I know that wonder why this guy is above Gohan. And I think I could see an argument for him being below Gohan for sure. But I think the thing is, when it comes to him, he's definitely a unit that I will happily, readily put on his teams because of the support that he gives. Rainbow orb changing, obviously very useful. Picking up enough rainbow orbs, obviously he's going to be giving everyone a ton of support, whilst also having damage reduction, getting the additional supers. This guy, obviously fully built up, can tank relatively well, whilst also doing some decent damage with an AoE, which, I mean, is not really that important because there's not many events where that's super relevant, but is still a factor, which is quite useful. I think he's probably like, I wouldn't say must run, but when you're running like Planetary Destruction or Pure Saiyans like that, or like the INT Broly team or some kind of build like that, this is a unit that I definitely would just put on the team and have as a floating support. Definitely more like better viably defensively than like units like Kid Buu and Goku Black and stuff like that, right? That's why they were a bit lower on the overall Super EZA tier list that I did. But yeah, this guy's still really, really good. And when I talked about when I did the Super EZA tier list, I wasn't sure. I think I put this guy just above in Ultimate Gohan, but by the time I'd like got done talking about the units in that video, I'd almost convinced myself already that Gohan should be higher, which, as you could probably guess, he is, because we haven't seen him here yet. So, but yeah, this guy, very, very good. Another one that was kind of hard to place amongst these units specifically, especially amongst like these three, was the STR Bojack. Because STR Bojack with his EZA is really, really good. But like arguably in his base form, you know, in certain situations or certain rotations, he isn't going to be as good defensively as the STR Broly. But obviously if you have a Space Traveling Warriors build, he does have guard, or Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds. He does have guard, he does have very good post-super defense, and then obviously the support that he gives is very good. He gives more support if you're facing multiple enemies as well. But then, of course, the difference is that Bojack is one of those units where once you get to a certain point in the event, if you don't need the support anymore, or you just want to go full ham and try and finish it off, then you obviously transform into full power Bojack. And then this guy can do some pretty crazy damage, have very, very good raw defense after supering, and then obviously has guaranteed guard with the transformation. He's greatly raising defense on super, and you can get multiple supers in the turn as long as you're getting the 6 orbs. So this guy can be really, really good once he transforms. But again, like, it's interesting with these units, like in a longer event, by the time you transform this Bojack, you could make the argument that TEQ Gohan could be stacked up enough to be way better defensively than this Bojack, but Bojack obviously is going to hit a hell of a lot harder, especially than like the base TEQ Gohan. And then obviously again with Broly can do some very solid damage and backs it up by having damage reduction, whereas this guy has like raw defense and then guard. So I feel like these 3 units in particular, you could mix them around a fair bit in this middle part of like the list, and I probably wouldn't be too like massively opposed to that. But yeah, we end up with Bojack at number 5, with Broly at 6 and Gohan at 7. Like I say, these 3, 5, 6, and 7, you could switch these around a bit, and I probably wouldn't have too much of an argument. Like I said, it all just depends on your personal preference for team building and stuff like that, right? So let me know. Obviously, this guy's super good on like the Slug team, which is one of my favorite teams to run at the moment. So maybe that's why. But let me know your thoughts down below. So then we go on to number 4, and that's where we have INT Gohan. Again, with Majin Buu Saga getting so many buffs, like this guy is such a good unit. If you are running the build of the team that is basically all super class, then I think this guy is like an auto include on the team. He's providing a ton of support, especially if you're fighting an extreme class enemy. 58% attack and defense to all the super class allies. And then once he's built up, like he's got a 70% chance to dodge. But then even if he doesn't dodge, he's at around 1 million defense with guard. So obviously he can still tank relatively well, especially against like normals. He will tank if he doesn't dodge, but he has 70% dodge to back it up. So it's not like Goku, right, who was much lower down the list, who has a slightly higher percentage chance to dodge at 80, but he doesn't have guard and isn't like going to be tanking these attacks as well as Gohan. So I don't know, like again, I don't know if it's just my overall disappointment with that Goku that's dropped him so low, but like I just feel like there are arguments for every other unit that I've put above him on the list being better than him. I think Gohan is just like a much better version of that Goku, and of course you don't have to go through the transformation condition to then get him into this like state, right, which is you also have to do with the Goku. So Ultimate Gohan is at number 4, the Super EZA, and then we go on to the top 3. So again, these ones, you definitely could shift them around a little bit. I mean, to be fair, like, again, we talked about the difference between like support units and damage dealers and stuff like that. If you think that Gohan is better than these guys, I could maybe see some arguments for it. But at number 3, we have the physical Goten and Trunks. Now, these guys, I think the only letdown for them and the reason why I don't use them on builds more often is because you do really want the all allies in the turn being Kamehameha units for them to get the 30% damage reduction. But these guys can be really good. Obviously, when they're fully built up, they have like really high dodge chance. They can hit some really high damage. Their active skill obviously gives them guaranteed guard for the turn. I mean, just one of those things. In their best situation, these guys are just going absolutely crazy. And the thing is, Gohan gives support, but these guys are dodging as well, potentially, with the damage reduction to back it up instead of a guard if you have the Kamehameha rotation. But they're also doing a lot of damage, which is very useful as well. And of course, they've been added to the Buu Saga now too. So these guys are really good. I think the Kamehameha condition is probably holds them back a little bit from being any higher. But I mean, number 3, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if it would hold them back from being 2 or 1, just because of how good the units at 2 and 1 actually are. So yeah, I'm not really sure, but physical Goten and Trunks still very good. Still have the ability to do big damage whilst also tanking reasonably well as well. But again, depends on your preference for teams, right? Like if you don't have a space on your Buu Saga team or these other teams for these guys, or you don't have a build that incorporates like a full Kamehameha setup for them, and then, you know, you just want to be running a really good support unit, I could see you like thinking that Gohan is above these guys. So obviously let me know what you guys think when it comes to that. And then at number 2, we have TEQ Beerus, and obviously this is where I think people are going to start typing away angrily, because that means at number 1 we have Vegeta. Now, Beerus at number 1 obviously was at number 1 previously because this guy's super good. His condition to get the guard is really easy, so he can tank really well. He does big damage. He only does the 1 attack, which is a little bit annoying, but really good defensively, really good offensively. He has the rage mode, which obviously is super useful as well. Can cancel out like enemy super attacks and stuff like that. His rage mode actually does hit relatively hard as well, which is really good. So you get some decent free damage, as well as that utility of cancelling out enemy special abilities. So this guy's super good. The only reason I think I dropped him from number 1 is just because of the teams that he's on, like teams and links. He still does very well on like the teams that he's on, even if he doesn't have a lot of links active. But I just don't think he's as cohesive on some of these teams as Vegeta is. Now, Vegeta is obviously on a lot of categories because he is a Vegeta. So, you know, he's obviously on Super Saiyan 2, Resurrected Warriors, Majin Buu Saga. But, of course, he's on Pure Saiyans, Vegeta Family, Gifted Warriors, Power Beyond Super Saiyan, like that kind of thing. And this guy, super good. Now, the downside for this guy, and I could see people saying that he shouldn't be number 1 because of this, is obviously he does have to transform first, right? Like this guy is not number 1 on his own, right? But as long as you don't get stuck in like an awkward cycle with the rotations, you know, if you have him on turn 1, he's then transforming on turn 3. And it's when he transforms into Majin Vegeta that he just becomes number 1, right? Like post super attack, this guy has insane defense. I talked about it when I did the showcase for him, but like post super attack, as long as you've got the orbs, the 6 orbs to get the extra stats and to get the extra to get the guard, this guy will tank super attacks of like 5 million or more, or even slightly higher, for double-digit damage after supering. So like he is ideally a slot 2 or 3 unit. We tried him out in one of the difficult events. Well, I say difficult, it was just the like Buhan red zone. But he tanked a slot 1 super that does like 1.7 million damage for, I think it was like 90k. So he can even tank some hits in slot 1. Obviously he's not going to tank the really big boss super attacks, but he's not designed to be a slot 1 unit. And the thing is, on top of all that, not only is he tanking all of these attacks in slot 2 and 3 like an absolute boss, as I mentioned during the section where we talked about INT Goku, he's also then dropping like 30 to 35 million attack stat supers. He gets the guaranteed additional, and then obviously if you if you get a rainbow orb, he gets one. As you know, once he's transformed, it is just part of his kit if your HP is 50% or more. And then obviously if you get the hidden potential as well, like, you know, he's doing almost 100 million attack stat worth of attacks, whilst also tanking pretty much every attack in the game outside of like the meme ones, you know, like Golden Frieza Countdown that does like 8 mil. Is it Launch one that does like 9999 damage? But most of the boss are super attacks. Even Golden Frieza, Goku and Frieza, when they're below 50% HP, this guy will eat their super. I mean, he might take more than double digits once they're below 50%, but he's not getting one shot by them, which is still incredibly impressive. So this guy, really good. If you don't think he's at number 1 because of the transformation condition, I could potentially see that, because there are some situations, I guess, where you can get stuck and don't get to transform. And in the base Super Saiyan 2 form, like, I wouldn't say he's terrible, but he's definitely not like number 1 material. But most of the time, I would say I don't have a huge issue getting him to transform. And obviously with how crazy the Buu Saga team is, he fits in very nicely into the meta now. We got the news today that we're getting the LR EZA for Physical Super Saiyan 2 Angel Vegeta, so that'll be another interesting addition to the Buu Saga team, and these guys will link up relatively well as well. We talked about the Angel Vegeta's details in the video this morning, but because you could essentially use him as a floating unit that just gives a bunch of extra defense, that'll make this guy even more tanky. Which would obviously be very good. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. But yeah, if we move on to actually being able to see the full list here in reverse order, we have either Kefla or Gotenks at number 10, with the other one as an honorable mention. INT Angel Super Saiyan 2 Goku at number 9, Full Power Frieza at 8, TEQ Gohan at 7, STR Broly at 6, STR Bojack at 5, INT Ultimate Gohan at 4, Physical Goten and Trunks at 3, Beerus at 2, and then the TEQ Vegeta at number 1. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning, if you disagree with any of these placements, do let me know why you think so in a civilized fashion, and I'm more than happy to reply to the comments. Like I said at the beginning, it's very tough with this one, because especially when you look at like the top 5 units on the list, they are all doing very different things, right? Bojack is a support unit, but then transforms into a damage dealer. Gohan is a support unit. Goten and Trunks are a damage dealer. Beerus is a damage dealer. And then Vegeta is like a damage dealer and tank. Like, they all do kind of different things. So just being able to very easily go, oh yeah, this is, you know, this is how they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, it's definitely not that easy, right? So let me know what you guys think. What would you change? What would your personal top 10 list for EZAs look like? Let me know down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.